Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving straight into the critical, highly compliance-driven world of environmental impact assessments, or EIAs. Now, if your organization operates in this space, you already know that proving your competence isn't just about handing in a decent report at the end of the day. It's really about validating the continuous excellence of your entire team. So we are going to look closely at exactly how the National Accreditation Board for Education and Training, NAVET, evaluates performance and enforces accountability right through your quality management system. Okay, let's kick things off with a massive number that's going to echo throughout all of our source material today: 40%. Now, don't get it twisted. This isn't some passing grade you want to aim for. 40% is the absolute minimum baseline score an organization must achieve in personal performance just to even be considered for accreditation. Fall below this, and well, the conversation is pretty much over. Here is our roadmap for today. First, the QMS Foundation. Second, the Internal Evaluation Framework. Third, external NAVET assessment. And finally, scoring and accreditation impact. Starting off with Section 1, the QMS Foundation. At the macro level, evaluation actually has to be written right into the DNA of the company. It's not just a nice-to-have management best practice. It's a mandatory, hard-coded regulatory requirement embedded directly in the NAVET scheme. Under QMS Procedure B3, you're literally required to establish key performance indicators for your experts. You have to measure the actual quality of the EIAs they're associated with and conduct a formal annual appraisal. Meanwhile, Procedure B5 mandates very specific procedures for your empaneled or freelance experts. You've got to assess their past work before even retaining them, and then continually assess what they deliver. And it's not just about judging what someone did in the past. The QMS mandates that organizations have strict, documented procedures in place to continuously update the knowledge levels of their entire team. Whether an expert is sitting in your office full-time or operating as a freelance empaneled expert, you have to prove, with evidence, that they're stand current on new regulations and the absolute latest developments in the field. In this industry, stagnation is quite literally a compliance violation. This really brilliantly illustrates how the QMS differentiates between your personnel. It intentionally treats in-house experts differently from empaneled freelancers. Your in-house team? They're evaluated on their daily habits, things like attendance, discipline, and internal teamwork. But for empaneled experts, the system ensures they're held to highly specific terms of reference. You aren't judging them on whether they show up to the office at 9 a.m. You're strictly assessing the technical quality of the specific EIA portion they were contracted to deliver. Moving right along to Section 2, the Internal Evaluation Framework. So let's zoom in a bit on how these overarching QMS rules actually translate into real quantifiable math. The crucial metric here is the Total Performance Index, or TPI. Think of this as a multi-part report card where the weight is heavily skewed toward daily operations. Part A, which covers overall criteria like your attitude and work quality, holds a massive 40% weightage. Parts B and C carry 20% each. Basically, the daily grind mathematically matters the most. Let's break down that hefty Part A. In this section, highly subjective traits are strictly quantified on a rigid scale of 1 to 5. You're graded on the quality of your work, meaning do you make fewer mistakes during internal QA/QC? You're graded on responsibility. Do you actually take true ownership of the task? Work planning? Can you consistently hit your deadlines? And communication. How proficient are you in reporting verbally and in writing to clients and management? It's a rigorous, quantified mirror held right up to your daily professional habits. Building on that, Parts B and C fold in a much broader perspective. Part B requires some deep self-assessment. You have to actively identify your own personal strengths and weaknesses, state your short and long-term goals, and you even receive peer evaluations. Then, Part C brings in the hard technical criteria. It asks point blank, do you meet the baseline NABAC qualifications? And are you hitting the highly specific technical standards defined by your company? All right, on to Section 3, External NABET Performance Assessment. So we've done the internal math, but what actually happens when NABET assessors physically arrive at your office for surveillance and reaccreditation? Well, they look directly at the project files, and they evaluate different roles entirely differently. They grade EIA coordinators on big-picture oversight. They want to see concrete proof of site familiarity and verify that the environmental management plan is totally adequate. Functional area experts, however, they get scrutinized on the granular details. Things like their direct involvement in selecting sampling locations and actively supervising primary data collection within their specific domain. I really want to draw your attention to this stark warning directly from the standards. Experts must maintain field logbooks detailing site observations and work done. Listen to this. If you cannot physically demonstrate your site visits through a concrete evidence trail, it can quite literally lead to the absolute cancellation of your career status as an approved expert. Seriously, your perfect internal TPI score won't save you if your field logbook is empty.
Finally, Section 4, Scoring and Accreditation Impact.
When all this internal and external math is officially tallied up by NABIT, the stakes are absolute. As we mentioned right at the start of this explainer, 40% isn't just a number, it is the floor. Falling below 40% in personnel performance means total non-approval for the organization. It's the literal critical threshold between staying in business and losing your accreditation entirely. This clearly maps out your ultimate fate based on the assessor's scoring. Score 60% or more, and you can actually be upgraded from a Category B expert to a highly coveted Category A, assuming you meet all the experience prerequisites, of course. But if an approved Category A expert scores between 40 and 50% during a surveillance assessment, they are hit with an official alert and face a severe downgrade back to Category B. And as we know, dropping below 40% means outright cancellation. The takeaway here is incredibly important. An individual's poor internal report card triggers a massive chain reaction. If individuals are downgraded, it threatens the entire organization's overall accreditation category. Alerts mandate immediate documented corrective actions within your QMS. Ultimately, the survival of the entire organization relies entirely on the combined performance and compliance of its individual experts. The macro relies completely on the micro. With the grading criteria so relentlessly specific, you really have to ask yourself, if an assessor walked into your office tomorrow, does your evidence trail actually prove your excellence? Are your logbooks ready? Is your internal performance absolutely undeniable? Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into NABIT performance evaluation. Review your QMS today and ensure you are always aiming far above that 40% baseline. Catch you next time.